Welcome to the Best Me podcast. Your best tomorrow starts today. I'm your host, Ellen Livingston. I believe showing up each and every day as the best version of myself doesn't happen on accident. It takes awareness and planning. On this podcast, I talk about planning for ways to improve my health, develop a sense of purpose in everyday life, and create meaningful connections so I can be the best me I can be. And so can you. Let's get started. Hey there, besties. It's me, Ellen. Thanks so much for listening today. Those of you who know me know my favorite thing to do is to read. And I love all kinds of books, fiction and nonfiction. In fact, one year for Christmas, my kids got me a Kindle and a small blanket throw-like thingy to wrap up in while I read. And honestly, it is one of my favorite gifts ever. Now, I know a lot of people love to read, and people who don't enjoy reading usually love to hear a good story. And really, that's all what reading really is, a good story that we are either entertained by or it intrigues us and we learn something from it. And something that I find really interesting is when we read, our brain doesn't really make a real distinction between reading about an experience and actually living it. Isn't that crazy? It's because the same neurological regions are stimulated. So when you read about something, say like, a cat stretching and then curling up in a patch of sunlight, your brain does something called the mirroring effect. And you can actually feel like the characters you're reading about feel. So the stories we read can really affect us. But today, I want to talk a little bit about the stories that we tell ourselves. You know, that voice in your head. And you may have been telling yourself a story for a very long time. And these often hold us back because a lot of times they're negative. You know what I'm talking about. You say things to yourself like, I'm not smart enough. I'm unlucky. I'm shy. Or I always mess up. Things never work out for me. I'm not lovable. I don't deserve good things. And these stories affect how we feel about ourselves and then how we act and behave, which then creates our reality. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy thing. No one becomes educated believing that they aren't smart enough to learn. And no one succeeds at business without believing they can. And no one overcomes obstacles, like U.S. track star and fastest man on earth, Noah Lyles, without believing you can. Remember his statement, why not me? Well, let me tell you about a story I told myself that honestly, sometimes I still struggle with. I have a twin brother, and by the way, he is the best brother anyone could ask for. We're very close, and I really love him. And when we were young and starting school, my mother had us placed in different first grade classrooms. And my brother is very smart. He's really academically gifted, and I'm not. I'm just average. What happened was I remember that about halfway through our first grade school year, my brother's teacher had a parent conference with my parents, and what she told them was my brother was already working on second grade curriculum. And they were so proud of him. And well, I guess I must have looked sad or something because I knew I wasn't working on second grade curriculum. And my parents were really careful not to compare us. But I remember my mom trying to make me feel better, told me, that's okay, Ellen, don't worry. Boys are supposed to be smart in math. Now, I wasn't a poor student at that time. But boy, did I lose confidence in myself. And I started telling myself I wasn't smart, especially in math. And because of this story that I told myself for years, I struggled, especially like in early elementary school. And I lived in fear of being called on in class. I just wanted to be invisible, even though, guys, I usually knew the answers to the questions. But I believed I wasn't very smart, which is so strange because I was really a strong B student and I was very qualified. And, I have a college degree. But I do think that, honestly, I might have a little bit of a speech language disconnect, kind of like I'm doing now. No, but seriously, I can see a word, I know what it means, but I oftentimes have trouble pronouncing it, and I'm proving it here right now. That's crazy. But anyway, it took years for me to transform this belief about myself. And I sometimes wonder what my school career would have been like if I had told myself a completely different story. Now, does any of this negative self-talk sound familiar to you? What stories do you tell yourself? Well, the good news is it is possible to change your story, and it starts with being aware of your negative self-talk. And when you catch yourself saying things like, I always mess up, you need to stop and question yourself and realize this isn't true. You don't always mess up. Stop and think about the things that you've done without messing up. Think of what you have accomplished, and you start to reframe your thinking. In fact, telling yourself positive statements or affirmations like, I can learn, I am worthy of respect and love, I am confident, they really help you challenge and reframe negative self-talk, and that improves your self-esteem and confidence. So become aware of these stories that you tell yourself and stop and question yourself and tell yourself that you're awesome because you are. You can create the most potential for yourself by believing in yourself. Now get out there and shine, besties. That's all I have for today. Be kind, be positive, and be your best. And remember, small progress is still progress. Thanks for listening to the Best Me podcast. If you would like to make a comment, suggest a podcast topic, or just say hi, send me an email at bestmepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you'll join me next week as I continue to talk about how to be the best me I can be. This episode was edited by Adam Boatwright. If you need any help with music, audio and video editing, or digital arts, be sure and check him out at adamboatwright.com. That's ADAMBOATRIGHT.com.